Well, how's the weather in India, folks?
Weather's Mumbai is getting a little hot, and North will start experiencing some winters. Yeah. So, what about your end, Michael?
Well, we're headed into spring, and hopefully it's starting to warm up a little at our end. We've been through winter and heading into spring now. I'm based out of Melbourne, so we're in the tightest lockdown of any city in the world, I believe, at the moment, which is kind of crazy. But apart from that, we're all ploughing through.
All right. Great.
I think we're all on. Nobody's got an echo.
Yeah, I think we should roll, right? I don't know if Amit is joining. Amit was supposed to be there on that.
Amit sir is not joining.
So,
sir is
yeah.
late, so he's not joining.
Okay, Amit's not joining. All right, okay, let's get rolling. Once again, formally, thank you everyone for joining, and welcome to this quick panel discussion. Uh, Very nice to have a diverse set of panelists out here. I think a combination of in the Indian sector, the multinational, the Indian, the public sector view. I think we're going to have a diverse view out here from banking and from insurance as well. Right. So I'll quickly set the context here. Yeah. I think what we're clearly seeing, between since Amit is not joining, we won't have a state bank perspective. I think Prasanna being there from the DCB, Byju from Future, Mr. Mostafa from Prime, Vishwa from Equitas, Michael from SOTI, and Jitendra joining us from HDFC, right? I'm sure all of you are in this midst of digital disruption, and COVID is only accelerating the journey. BFSI has been adopting technology much ahead of the curve compared to some of the other traditional industries like manufacturing or an energy business. Right? What we are seeing is application, like chatbots, which use AI, ML, have really transformed customer service. We barely spend time calling a customer service agent and trying to ask these questions. It's either a chatbot or a WhatsApp bot, and you're done. From 2014, we've seen blockchain, which has started evolving, and there has been a lot of disruption on that space, whether it's payment remittance or digital contracts or on the logistics side. Yeah, they're all seeing a fair amount of disruption. Look at UPI, what it has done, right? You're seeing the complete payment disruption. Coming to traditional IoT, while it has a lot of impact on logistics and manufacturing, but look at BFSI. Today, banks and insurance actually have a visibility to the asset that they are, paying for or they're lending money for. You could have, houses or cars or an agricultural space which has an IoT enabled device which can give you live stream data. So when you put the money on the table, you know where your object is, you know what asset it is, where it is, right? So it's becoming more personalized as well. So when you walk through a retail today, IoT is helping banks and cards companies to pointedly give offers using the whole ecosystem around beacons and location, etc. With those disruption in place, what I'm going to open the floor to is probably I'll call out each of you, and I want to share, understand from you, uh, possibly some of your experience in deploying these technologies. I think these technologies are given today. This is not something new for this sector, right? We've already been implementing some of these things. Personally, I've been through the digital journey for more than 5 years, and all of you are veterans in the BFSI space already. Can I invite maybe Jitendra to share his perspective first to give us some clue on some experience in how this technology has impacted the business, Jitendra. Please, Jitendra.
Sure. So basically, thanks, Nimish, and all my co-colleagues here. I am basically a business excellence person, and there has been always an endeavor. How can we create a high impact performance by streamlining the business processes? Largely leveraging around people and process has been the levers available, but now digitization has become a new arm available to us to really play and create a right kind of a tripod to create a sustainable business results. Now we are talking the language of digitizing the processes, and the journey evolved somewhere 4 to 5 years back. when the new technologies were taking up, starting with maybe an automation, understanding automation in the format of maybe an RPA,
Right.
robotic process automation. That was like a first early start of killing our non-value adding activities and taking out many routine tasks out of it. Slowly, from those complex scenarios of helping in terms of some of the monotony and rule-based processing, various touch point experiences started happening, as you rightly said, in terms of a chatbot. And now they are taking a large part of experience providing either to the employee or to the end customers on various manner. It could be a text level, it could be assisted, it could be non-assisted. So you name a touch point where a customer presence is there, and you will find one of the chatbot will be there as a first point of resolution. Further
Right.
to that, we have actually gone about and said that okay, while end customers are actually getting enabled, particularly in insurance, our distributors and our agents and employees should be really assisted with the right kind of a knowledge, which is currently fragmented and is there in the organization in different part. And that's where we created a knowledge bank in the format of a virtual assist for sales and service, which is a unique kind of an enablement which has been done, so that be it a new business prospecting journey or maybe a servicing journey, this salesperson who is interacting with the customer is actually fully enabled, and he is helping customer with all those information for which earlier he was dependent upon at the backend team. So there is a better confidence building, trust building, and interaction delivery which is taking place, and query boxes which were there in the equation has been completely eliminated. Now from there are multiple use case came. What kind of analytics could be done to really understand customers in terms of a propensity to use, propensity to buy, propensity to make a payment, and accordingly persistency as a process, new business processes actually started impacting. And there are other analytics model which we started working in terms of early warning indicators on employees, which could be a retention strategy, and working on some of those niche area which are very clearly targeting on some of those pains which were chronic in nature, and there was no solution. So people, process, and technology put together is now creating a next level of wave in our insurance processes. And some of these things are actually creating a scalable proposition, and that has become a new norm. We can't possibly live without it. Now we are talking about whatever a human being is actually doing. So in terms of hands, that has been taken care by RPA. Whatever that person was doing with the head, that's where the cognitive bots are coming. Now we are going ahead and saying that okay, if a person is actually using his eyesight in terms of verification, how can visual bots be there? When a mouth of a person in a call center is getting used, that's where the voice bots have come in and have actually created those kind of a substitute. So wherever the human senses are, apart from maybe heart part of it and maybe smell and taste, we can see that there is a technology available, and there is an augmentation of that technology on the right kind of use case has taken place.
Sure. Thank you, Jitendra. I think that's a brave perspective of picking up the human senses and going bot by bot. Very interesting. Let me shift to the bank side. I'll request Mr. Mostafa to give some perspective from Prime Bank. Let's understand from him what has been their experience. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you for inviting me here. I hope I'm audible, right? Because I've got cold and my voice is a little low. My apology for that.
No, you're doing well. Great.
I'm hoping it's just a flu, nothing else. Okay. And, anyway, even if it is not a flu, it is not going to transmit. So I'm not wearing a mask. Okay. It is, for this case, it transmit is possible. Okay. Thank you again. So from the banking perspective, if I just highlight few points, as Mr. Jitendra was mentioning, there are technologies they're evolving one after another, like chatbots, voice bots, and in the area of IoTs as well. And we are also as a bank exploring few of the features of AI, particularly I would say in AI area. Among the technologies we are talking about today, AI has got probably a little more maturity than few other technologies, in my opinion. Okay, so yes, RPA, we are also exploring chatbot and voice bot also. And like all other technology historically, if you talk about internet also, it took a lot of time to get traction and eventually come to everyone's use, right? So these are the technologies now, not in the very preliminary stage. There are some use cases, of course, a lot of banks are using, but I think there are areas where it will take a little more time to get matured, to have more business values or business cases for the banks, particularly banks being financial organization and very sensitive to the customer information and customer transactions. Yeah, so just for an example, yeah, blockchain, for example, we are exploring blockchain based few business cases also, like trade finance or supply chain, and probably in limited scale we can do this, but we need some kind of preparation, like we need to be just for an example technology savvy, like cloud enabled, or maybe you'll need kind of a complete ecosystem. You'll need other partners to come and to give you that skill that you need. So there are a lot of things to to add up to the ecosystem, to make our banks or the customers enable, bank in financial industry customers enable to use it more. But yes, obviously the potentiality is very high. If I talk about IoT, which is more of consumer focus or retail focus, there, because user will eventually already is coming up to use more and more IoT device, and eventually there will be a lot of IoT device connected, and probably there is some research telling that uh, 20 billion or 30 billion devices will be connected, IoT device worldwide within this 2020, right? So when the users will be using, it will create opportunity for the banks to get data, and probably if it is the way we are thinking it, to communicate and take instruction and to sense the instruction. So both the banks and financial organization will be able to listen and understand the customer behavior, and also probably manipulate, or probably uh, give input to for better customer experience. Okay, so just for an example, based on the customer data, some loan or credit process can be there, or probably some payment can be initiated based on the customers. There are already use cases, or there are already practical implementation of this, that some variables are being used for payment, right? uh, and for other devices that are in need, can initiate the transactions, the payment transactions. But probably some highly tech savvy, or I would say pioneer type of banks worldwide are now using as a
Right.
R&D. Yeah. So to make it widespread for the other banks, for the general banks who are very cost concerned, are not much into that R&D, to adopt that business case, that will take a little more time. But yes, potentiality is of course high. That's what I would say. So yes,
Okay.
all these technologies, eventually will come today or tomorrow, as we can see, because these are the things clearly being seen. Just we need to wait and see. Okay.
Sure. Sure. Right. I think this is here to stay, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
We all, some it's the adoption curve that may be different for various countries and organizations. But yeah. So let me flip the coin back to our insurance friends. Byju, who is the chief technology officer at Future Generali. Uh, what was your experience? Did you face real any challenges, or how smooth was the journey? Some of these adoption of uh, AI machine learning side.
Sure, sure. So I'll start a little bit philosophical, and then get into the aspects of it. So the intelligence is one of the defending features, or a defining features of human being, that it comes in a various forms, such as linguistic, spatial, mathematical, and emotional, right? From a purely practical point of view, so the intelligence can be defined as capacity to absorb and learn from the experience, in its ability to deal with, and address those problems, and able to come out with finally some kind of solutions. Right? That's all about, all this intelligence we are talking about using all these technologies. So as per, I'm a very philosopher of, the once the famous, Tesla theorem actually talks about AI is whatever it hasn't been done yet. So I'll give an example. Two examples. OCR being, there, or ICR being there. Now we don't even associate the OCR, ICR with artificial intelligence. Neither the bots.
Right.
Because bots become just conversational, and there is no benchmark. I mean, you would set the benchmark next. There's nothing contextual, no intelligence. So we just try and do some logics and learn from the past. So what I'm trying to say is, the technology, there is nothing called magic wand. So it's an experience which will bring to the table, and then you try and solve a particular problem on your table. So let me say this: IoT devices are increasing day to day, and we are, in a health insurance space. We do have home insurances, and even cattle to any other whatever you say on the space we insure. So what we see is all these are throwing so much of data, and we need to handle that smartly and reduce the meaning of the data and employ it for decision making. And this require, of course, IoT, which emanate data. You need a big data to ensure stores and disseminate that in the right way. And finally, you use, once your structured data or unstructured data is stored well in the meaningful manner, to consume it for the the need-based areas or use case based, then artificial intelligence comes into help the end user interface. So it's a chain. It's like supply chain. When I in my manufacturing environment or some logistic environment, it's a connection of multiple services. And finally, the AI or all this technology become a reality. So data generated by IoT devices are highly susceptible to security hazards. And we have seen data coming in, manipulated using all devices, and you can even actually make a watch which is, want to have a dog, and then you can get all these things done, right? I mean, there are many ways of manipulating the health readings. So all this comes, but how do you ensure and personalize informations, store it for a particular customer, and then nudge it the right time, right when in the channel when customer approaches. So door of challenges, it's hunky-dory when you actually finally find a use case is proven and problem is solved. But to get there, it is a humongous task. And it's not. So we have taken a use case-based approach, not boiled oceans. There is technology, but we will leverage technologies from IoT to finally you employing artificial intelligence or AI to actually bring into conversation engineering, and then finally disseminating to the customer is done use case basis. Okay. And I believe there is a too many options and use cases can be still untapped, remaining there.
Okay, interesting. So you're taking one piecemeal at a time. Let's solve one problem at a time. That's an interesting perspective. Let me switch to Prasanna here. Prasanna represents DCB Bank, and Prasanna, I would want to understand, what was your experience in deploying some of the digital technologies at your end?
So if you are talking about blockchain, AI, or IoT technologies, so I think it's a journey for every organization. As what Mostafa said, some of the organizations are pocket friendly, so they can really implement, take some risk, and go ahead. And ultimately, it is all depends upon what type of customer you have. If you have millennial customers, and if you say I will do wearable tomorrow or maybe after 5 years, then you are losing out the whole game. If you have some traditionalist customer, SME customer, and you say I will do IoT later on, fine, it's okay. So it all depends upon how consumer is really driving your organization. Now look at pandemic situation, right? During pandemic situation, most of the consumers are demanding everything at home on mobile, and all of a sudden everybody has started utilizing data. And when we will have 5G in our life in the next couple of years, some of the country already adopted 5G. So all of a sudden, as Mustafa said, IoT devices will become tomorrow's customer, right? So you have to serve those customers. You have to serve that refrigerator. You have to serve that smart car. You have to serve electricity bill being paid by tubelight itself. So as a transformation journey, digital transformation journey, if you look at how the transformation journey will happen, so let's divide into 3 areas. The first area, which is your front area, which is front office, wherein we have currently mobility as a transformational device which serves our customers. Tomorrow that mobility will become wearable or IoT device, right? Or some other channel who is doing the transaction on behalf of a customer. Now in the back end, you have your databases or your intelligence systems, which are like big data or artificial intelligence, that's a journey for every organization to go ahead. Now customer is is moving so speedy and is demanding so much. For every organization, it is very important how they are engaging customer. Onboarding in 4 minutes is now that job is done with the KYC or all those things. But now how you are engaging, how you are giving back to the customer some bidirectional channel. So that will be given by your big data or AI. If you will not do it, somebody else will do it. Now you decide whether you want to do it or wait and watch. So that's the game. So apart from your AI, big data in the back end, you will have a blockchain will come into picture, wherein your use cases today, which are on web, slowly will go on to the collaborative platform, open banking platform, or aggregation platform. So example, same customer would like to do a transaction of mobile app for a food, as well as you want to buy insurance also there. So you have to bring on insurance, your bank, your car manufacturer on all same chain. So that is we may say that is a future, but it will happen. So those organizations who are ready, who are party to that whole collaborative ecosystem with the blockchain, along with the AI, along with the IoT in the front, they will be successful. Now, how this front and back will talk to each other, either through some kind of automation, robotic process automation, or some kind of open API or a smart contract in between. So as a digital transformation journey, when you look at technology adoption, you have to adopt, or you have to have a strategy in your journey, IoT, blockchain, or AI as a part of a journey. Now how this adoption is really happening now. Some of the organizations are doing some practice around blockchain, some POCs, pilots are happening, or some of the organizations started journey on AI, big data, and most of the organizations understand the value of the data. IoT is a near future, but after connectivity and when geo-like organizations are coming with the glasses or some of the other devices, so automatically that adoption will keep on happening. So customer will drive your journey. You may feel today I do not need, but all of a sudden customer will say this is in demand. Please offer your banking or some other experience on my Alexa. I want to talk to my Alexa. I want to do all the transaction there. So you have to be ready there. So now every organization has to decide whether who is their customer and by when this customer is demanding this particular service. Now, as Mustafa rightly said, and even Byju sir rightly said, that the adoption of technology, it all depends upon people or what type of process or what type of a regulation or a customer demand is there. You say, I will do some blockchain use case, but there has to be some use case. Today, on a blockchain, there are multiple use cases. I can name 100 plus, 200 plus use cases, which will go and which will be in future. Today, it's really in need. Atmanirbhar campaign, wherein Pantapradan says that supply chain has to be automated. Post-pandemic, we say that our operation has to be reduced. AI, IoT, or blockchain will reduce your complete settlement cycle. If you bring on smart contracts or Bitcoin happens just like that, right? Without man in middle, settlement happens, right? Why not utilize same phenomena into the banking? It will happen gradually. It will, because we have done a lot of investment so far. We cannot replace that investment immediately. But the DeFi kind of concepts like decentralized finance, wherein the valuation was like within a 6-7 months, it has gone beyond 10 billions. Some 200 startup fintechs provide loans, provide savings accounts, provide current account, with all interest rates. They just operate without any regulation, but they are making it happen. So within a regulation, if you really bring on these technologies, slowly, gradually, we will see some kind of a business model around that, wherein we'll remove these extra operations, and we can reskill those people to do something more better. So I'm not saying jobs will vanish. Nimish, what I want to say, it's combination of multiple factors. What is your people are doing in your organization? What type of organization is there? What is their business model? Where they want to go ahead? And if a strategist is some game changer guy within the organization decides, let's do it. So he or that particular some of the group within the organization can make this complete transformation happen. So it's a journey. The organizations who will make this emerging technology as a normal technology in next 2-3 years, they will really have a long way to go.
Sure. So thank you, Prasanna. I think that gives us a broader perspective of where the industry is also headed. I'll quickly give Vishwas to share his perspective before Michael. You can step in to give an example of something that's happening right there in Australia. I think it'll be a different cut for us. Vishwas, you want to share your experience around deployment of some of this?
Yes, thanks, Nimish. So just to add on Mr. Byju's point, as he said, analytics and what is happening in ML area. So even I have a perspective on that. So as he said, AI, we don't count chatbots and RPA and AI now, because, so my perspective is AI is like God. We all claim that we want to achieve God, but whenever you see and experience something, you can say, no, it is common now. And ML is the path that we are taking the analytics to achieve God. So in that way, it's a journey. So where it is started is through digitization, because the face-to-face interactions moved to face-to-screen interactions. We had more screen interactions. We had a data capturing possibilities, and there we started capturing a lot of data. And even IoT, as Mr. Prasanna said, IoT started creating data, and then there was a need for like big data to capture and make sense out of the data. So again, to add, because a lot of people already captured that, Mr. Jitendra mentioned that it started with process correction or process excellence. So it was basically a shift from operational to a strategic move for AI, ML, and big data analytics. Is doing the things in a right way is where the business excellence started, and then it moved to doing the right things, which was a strategic move for the business. As he mentioned, now people started creating solutions which will be customer focused. So it is basically like a strategic move, I would say, so from mass customization to personalization. So all the customers, because based on their profiles that we have, we can segment it to a so micro level that all the customers will have different type of offerings, and then we can create their different experiences. So that is what it is. And again, one more point, because anyways, Mr. Prasanna already explained nicely for this blockchain work. But again, one thing I always mention, all these others we are discussing on AI, ML, and big data, all we have seen in last 5 years, companies have used it for their competitive advantage. But this blockchain is something that we will have to use for industry perspective. Once we don't have an industry involvement or centralized policy involvement, it will not happen. As he mentioned, some policy will be there, and that policy will guide people to work in that. Otherwise, also lending companies are working. But what happened with Bitcoin? Because the fluctuation was there, governments did not allow. A lot of governments did not allow. But in terms of contracts, it is something that can provide 100% transparency. So I would say others all combining together, because it's starting as a step-by-step journey, starting from digitization. But it's like a call, as you already mentioned by people. It's a call for the organization where they stand, where their customer profile stands. But I see a shift from operational to strategic shift, from automation to designing the product, and then involvement of a industry body to give blockchain also a place where it can play a role that it should.
Okay.
So I have a view here, Nimish and Vishwa. So blockchain or Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, when you talk about, it's a blockchain 1.0, where most of the cryptocurrency, 3,000, 4,000 plus cryptocurrency relevant use cases are there.
Yeah.
So certainly we need some industry regulation or country regulation to really look at the cryptocurrencies and so on. But blockchain is a technology, right?
Exactly.
Blockchain don't need any regulation all about, right? So what is that I want to say? Say example, Telangana government is creating a smart city. based upon a blockchain. We have examples like Estonia or Dubai who are creating all the government use cases on blockchain. Okay, or you talk about any of those solar coin, or you talk within my bank. I am working on 3 use cases, which is not industry agnostic, but to begin with, how and my organization understand blockchain, so that, as you rightly said, Vishwa, some of the use cases which are consortium use cases. Say example KYC. Tomorrow I want to bring on a KYC between A bank, B bank, C bank. So wherein customer coming to A bank can reutilize same KYC as a smart contract at a B bank. So that model is there as of now, and it has some kind of a deficiencies, or so that those can be really improved on with the help of blockchain. Say in Japan, it is being already implemented for a centralized KYC. So blockchain is a technology. Sure. The way database has penetrated in every application today, blockchain will get blockchain, I would say DLT, ledger technology, will penetrate into several other applications, because we are now bringing more application aggregation where we need trust, and that trust will be driven by not web technology but blockchain technology.
Sure. I think that's a fair point, Prasanna. Where I was actually coming from, maybe Michael has a different perspective, as we call it, from the land of Australia. So, would be keen to understand some real stuff, some experience out there, Michael.
Sure. Yeah, well, look, I suppose I come at it from the technology side, obviously being my role with SOTI across APAC, and whilst based here in Australia, the reality is my team is spread right across APAC and working with countries like India and Indonesia and many other countries throughout Asia. So we've had a lot to do with all of the finance industries, but also many other industries who are confronting exactly the same problems. So the healthcare industry is having a monumental discussion around digitisation and the challenges of data security being the biggest and most potentially dangerous issue for finances and banking industries. It absolutely is equally the same challenge for the health industries. Patient records, those things are incredibly critical and incredibly important. And so I suppose my overall comment, and listening to all of you, is great, because the same comment is coming through, which is the adoption might be at different speeds and it might be approached in slightly different ways, but there's going to be a myriad of different devices, a myriad of different endpoints that are involved, and ensuring the security and the management and the support of all of those endpoints, whether they be in the consumer's hand or in your staff's hand or in contractor's hand, whether they be in a branch or whether they be in the field. The security and the support and the management of those is what we're seeing the biggest challenge for us, and where we're sort of based. So the adoption methods are different, the timings are different, but the same story applies, and that is that if you don't have the right security measures, if you don't have the right management measures in place, then you can't actually move forward with confidence.
Sure. I think security is going to play even a more important role. So, anybody has a quick perspective, before I can try and put the views together? Anybody has a quick perspective? One of you want to share something very real? Yeah, Byju, please. Byju or Byju, I'm not sure.
I just wanted to. Yeah, Byju.
Yeah.
So I think I just wanted to just say very simple: IoT and AI and the blockchain, okay, together can solve, and it has a very unprecedented opportunity for the enterprise, and as well as when we collaborate each other. From my industry perspective, I can clearly say a customer who's actually approached, let's say, HDFC or ICICI or any other insurers, or even from bank perspective, there are, with the customer consent, we can share using a secured manner all the aspects, whether it is credit availability or insurance. I mean, the risk which you are insured based on all your wealth you have. So, I mean, if as an industry we collaborate, actually who's going to benefit? It's the customer is going to benefit, and those days are not going to be too far. It's going to be very, very near. So, create entirely that ecosystem which I'm talking about will create a completely and a new business models, and you all as an industry will be able to leverage. I mean, I say industry, entire BFSI industry. And what is those technology will use? We use IoT to, big data, the blockchain to ensure that securities are mentioned in an interface, because today's IoT doesn't have any security. We can't even load an antivirus footprint on that. So it's damageable, right? So to realize this benefit of this, what we need to do, we need to build and adopt an ecosystem of IoT devices, and we need to source, store, and manage this enormous amount of data which will actually create. And we should adopt a sophisticated analytical model, which is a very machine learning capable one, and create new applications which actually create insights and help customer to decide finally. Let's not us decide or our distributor decide what exactly customer to do. And finally, customer has an option to decide and look at various options of products from multiple manufacturers or multiple banks, or multiple options. So customer should be king, and customer should be deciding what he wants. We as an ecosystem or industry should be enabling what rights for him or right for him finally. Definitely, you should start trusting the entire industry and ecosystem. That's what.
Yeah, that is important. Sure. Michael, you had some perspective there.
I was just going to say that, in terms of that, the IoT space and the security around the IoT space, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Anything that's connected, anything that's got that ability to be able to connect to a network, it must be managed. It's not an option anymore. It's data security, GDPR regulations from the European countries, and every other country has introduced their own version of that legislation. So the information is obviously, data is incredibly valuable, but the security of that data is incredibly important.
Sure. So, thank you. I think this was a good variety of perspective. Let me take a few minutes to try and gather some learnings, which probably I picked up in the session. And
Nimish, just before you summarize, one very important angle. Although we are corporates and we are coming from various industries, we are discussing, but very important angle which will drive us is education. So today, if you talk about blockchain, AI, or IoT, which is that educational institute teaches these technologies at a engineering level? There are very few. So that's another angle we'll have to really work upon while corporates are getting ready, or while within our bank or within our organization we are practicing these things. But a skill set generation, the way we have number of DBAs or number of web developers, we don't have number of AI experts or number of blockchain experts or IoT experts. So when we will have that thing more and more, these challenges around security at IoT or a standardization blockchain or AI as a very big, so this thing will become normal. So that's how, as this is another angle I'm sharing, not a angle from a banking industry or a insurance industry, but at a globally, skill set is one of the angle, and that has to be driven from education. And whichever country make it faster, those countries will be far ahead than the other countries. Say example China, which has already done it, or there are other few countries like in Australia also, blockchain strategy is already there for some kind of a standardization. It is already happening. Yeah, that's another angle I just wanted to share.
Sure. Thanks, Prasanna. Yeah, I think that's an adoption thing also. I think I'd like to highlight certain points which I really picked up, which probably is the learning, cross learning, or I'm sure the listeners also would like to listen something. I think, Jitendra, the point of operations excellence and adding the digital layer flavor to it is something we think as a practitioner we always say, digital is not putting IT into use. It is about, adding that next level of improvement in operations excellence. And thank you for calling that out, right? Whether it was, like you said, Mostafa, right, on supply chain, trade finance is where you're seeing technology impact coming in. Mr. Byju really called out, AI is what hasn't been done yet. So your new challenge is a new challenge. AI is a given. So we are moving to that, right? Prasanna, your point on and Byju sir on the use case based approach, right? You want to eat piece by piece. You don't want to take an overload of things. Right? That could be an interesting perspective. Prasanna, I think the point on the customer demand is going to drive digital adoption in some sense. Yeah, and that is one side of it. And I think Vishwa was really called out on the point of from a face-to-face to screen. So you're actually getting more personalized in the approach. Michael, like you called out, right? Security on top of it and the whole management layer, of how these things come up, right? My perspective is, I think with big data becoming more rich and real, thanks to blockchain, IoT, Digital is going to help make better decisions using AI and ML. I quoted the example of UPI disruption in India. I think it's completely changed the way payments are being made today in India. As somebody also pointed out, right? What happens with 5G? 5G means you are absolutely real time, which means you could typically transfer few GBs of data in seconds, analyze them and give a response back. Today you may be near real time, but 5G is going to make it real time. You will have access to your consumer preferences and usages in a click of a button. You will actually have access to an ecosystem around it to be able to deliver more specific customer responses, right? I think as industry professionals, we have to be geared up, and lead this industry ahead. And like Prasanna also said, somewhere the education sector supporting, the learning getting enhanced is a very important aspect. We look at today when you need people from analytics or IoT or digital background, they are few in number, literally. I think 2 years back, a survey was done and they found about, from an India perspective, I think about 25 to 30,000 professionals only. That's too low a number considering, from an India perspective itself, we have 1.3 billion customers here. And you really need these kind of skill sets. So while like that, it's not a job loss, it's a job changeover. So there is this whole wave. I think we are entering, right? We are already in it, right? With this, I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out, and apologies to the readers, to the viewers, because of the delay from here, and thanking the Eventalist team for making this happen. And all of you stay safe and please be healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you
We'll
very
sign
much.
off here. Thank you. Pleasure meeting you all.